Hello and welcome to this session of G Suite for Schools. My name is Wayne Forbes. I'm a digital classroom officer with the Technology for Learning team. Just a heads up, unfortunately, I've had some issues with our captioning software, so this video won't be captioned. So if you are deaf or hard of hearing or in a loud environment, you may not be able to hear this properly, and I apologize for that. We'll get that rectified as quickly as possible. Let's jump right in today with where we're starting. So today is all about moving your school online using the G Suite for education. And obviously, this is a bit of a process for schools. There's no race to the finish line. There's no prizes for getting there first. It's a process that does take time because we need to make sure that everybody in the school moves online with us. And we'll be developing a little bit of a timeline today. Before we do begin, I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. I'm broadcasting to you today from Australian Technology Park, and we are on Gadigal land here on the Eora Nation in Sydney. I'm a Biripi boy. I grew up in a Wabakal country, and I'm broadcasting across Darawal country and Darug country as well today. So I want to pay my respects to elders past and present, but also to our emerging elders, because they're the kids in our classrooms and they hold the hopes and the dreams and the aspirations of all Aboriginal people. So I would like to pay a very special respect to them. Today in this session, we're going to have a look at the toolkit that the G Suite provides for moving a school online. So we'll cover off some of the basics like Drive and Classroom, some of the video and chat tools that we've got as well as a space for schools to have professional discussions, dialogues, where to post information and things like that. We'll have a look at Microsoft Teams versus the G Suite, and I'll also show you how you can link the two pieces of software together, because it's really important to stress that just because your school has chosen to go with the G Suite as their main platform, it doesn't mean that you say goodbye to Microsoft or vice versa. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to show you how those two streams of tools communicate with each other. Then we'll have a look at some staff expectations and around making a timeline, as well as some further professional learning. So let's get stuck into it. As you can see on the screen, we're having a look at 5 different tools today, and all of these tools are provided by the Department of Education with your @education.nsw.gov.au suffix login. So we've got Drive, and the best way that I can explain that is it's an online version of the shared teacher drive at your school. Then we have a look at Classroom. That's your virtual learning management system, or an LMS, if you see that acronym get thrown about, because as you know, we are, of course, the Department of Acronyms, and it wouldn't be a PL session if you didn't learn a new acronym. There's Currents, and if you haven't checked out the Getting Started on Currents video, jump onto the Currents, have a look at that video, and it will walk you through all of that. Currents is the place for you to communicate with your staff. Some schools already use things like Microsoft Teams or Central, or they might have a whiteboard. And just because you're moving your school online doesn't mean that you have to scrap having things like a whiteboard or a yearly planner put up in your staff room. Those tools, anything here that we're showing you and anything you've got in your school is a tool, and they can help and supplement each other. So it's not a zero-sum game of if we move digital that we get rid of whiteboards. That's definitely not it at all. The other ones that we'll have a look at are HangoutsMeet and Chat, and these are, again, department approved and purchased tools for you to use to get you off things like WhatsApp, Slack if your school isn't paying for it, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, all of those non-department supported tools. So without further ado, let's get stuck into where we're going. So we'll have a look at Drive first, and you can see that I've logged into my staff portal, and I'll click on the G Suite for schools here. Now, as I mentioned, all of these tools are paid for by the Department of Education, and you'll have some things like Drive or Calendar, Docs and Sheets that if you use your personal Gmail account at home, that's fine, you can access them. Then you'll come down to things like Currents. where you aren't able to access that using your Gmail account. You will have to use your education account to access things like that. But for now, let's have a look at Drive. It's the first one that's on here. Now, I'm just going to walk you through my Drive. This is the Drive that I use every day. It's where I tend to do most of my work from. You can have a look on the side here. When you come into Drive, it gives you a couple of different landing pages. So we've got our menu here on the left-hand side, and then we've got our actual Drive here. Now, you're probably familiar with the folder structure. And you can see here, if I open up my Foundations folder, you can see all of the different schools and bits and pieces that I manage in there. So you have something along the top here called a thread. Now, I started in my Drive, then I clicked on my Foundations folder, and then I clicked on my Admin folder. So if I want to go back, I can just click along the thread up the top, and that will navigate me around as well. You have two types of drives. You've got your personal drive, which is my drive, and your shared drive. Now, in shared drive, you can see that there are a couple of different drives in here that have been shared, that I've shared out with other people, and also drives that people have shared with you will appear in here as well. If you haven't been shared with a drive, but someone has shared a document with you, you can click on Shared with Me. And you can see here, it will bring up a list of all of the items that have been shared with you. If you delete something, it does go into trash and it stays there for 30 days. So any items that you delete get deleted automatically after 30 days. So you don't have to manage that administrative side of Drive, but they do, it does keep those items there for you. If I come back up to my Drive, you can see along the top here, some of my most recent documents that have come through. If I want to create a new document in Drive, I've got two ways that I can do this. I can either click the new button up here and I can click a new folder, or I can upload from my device if I've been working in a different program. And yes, you can upload Pages documents, you can upload Microsoft Word documents, you can upload numbers or Excel files, all of those different formats, they all work in Google Drive. You don't have to do anything except click on File Upload, and then that should bring up your documents in here, and you should be relatively familiar with these screens by now. Let's go back and have a look. What else were we looking at? Classroom, of course. Classroom. The learning management system is the most popular learning management system in the Department of Education, and the response to COVID definitely proved that. We had huge uptakes of this one. So this is Google Classroom, very, very easy to use. You come in here, you've got all of your classes set up in here. To set up a new class, you can come up there and you can either join a class using a class code, or you can create a class as well. There are some new tools that have come through into here, so I just want to jump in and highlight some of these for you now. We now have a Meet link, so if you would like to work across classrooms, across schools, or even across the state, if you have a buddy program with another school, you can use Google Classroom to meet through Hangouts. Now, I won't get this started because we're using Hangouts in this session now. You can click to learn more, and that will take you through to some very easy reading that you can use as well. So I'll just click on got it there, but that will go through and take you in. And then it's the same lot of, same organization as we've always had as well, but we've also got these, this will link you straight to your class Drive folder, and this one will link you through to your Google Calendar for your classroom as well. But if you haven't already and you want some help, jump onto the T4L website, and there is so much information there for you to learn how to use Google Classroom. Now I'm going to practice good digital hygiene, and I'm going to close my tabs as I go along here. So those ones are relatively familiar to us. Currents, you'll have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to have a look. If you haven't had a look at the Getting Started on Currents video, I highly suggest that you do that, because we will run you through what this looks like and why it looks this way. We run you through the columns down here, as well as setting up your notifications. So we run you through the whole menu, from logging in to posting, to signing out, to adjusting your notifications, everything you need. Now, while we are on Currents, I will talk about moving your school onto an online platform. If you're already using a platform like Teams, or if you're already using a third-party platform like Momentum or Central, and those are your main avenues for communication, Currents may not be the best option for your school at this time. We want to make this process as simple as possible. We don't need to be overcomplicating things. This is something that you might need to have a chat to your team about, because the last thing that we want is to ask teachers to log into 3 or 4 different locations. And you might be seeing that already if you do use a platform like Momentum or Central, and people say, oh, it was on Central. Well, I only checked my emails. Or I emailed it. Well, I only checked Central. It's a really, really good idea when you're moving your school online to pick a single platform. Now, it might be Currents, it might be Central, it might be Momentum, it might be Microsoft Teams, it could be anything. Totally up to you. You need to have a chat with your colleagues about that, but just pick one single stream of communication, and that will make your life a lot easier. Jumping back now to a few things that you may not be familiar with, we've got HangoutsMeet here. Now, if I jump into this, because I'm already in a meeting here in this tab. Hello, look at that beautiful face. Should have been a model. This is your HangoutsMeet options here. Now, again, just make sure if you're using Google Chrome as your browser and you're logged in with your personal Gmail, this may actually come up with your personal Gmail, which will probably lock you out of most Department of Education meetings. So just make sure here that you're logged in with your at education.nsw.gov.au account. If not, you can always just click on this switch account button and add them in, and you can toggle between the two as is required. Nice and easy. Now, if you've got meetings scheduled, they'll turn up down here and you can click on that link. But if not, you can just click here on this plus button, and that can start a meeting that will provide a link for you to send out to any of your colleagues, or you can join a meeting if you've got a meeting code as well. Now, in order to start a HangoutsMeet meeting, or to schedule one, like I've scheduled these ones here and I post them into our Currents, you'll need to come back to your G Suite. Under the Organize column, you'll need to come into Calendar, and this will open up your calendar account that is associated with your G Suite account here. So if I hover over that, you can see I've got my @education.nsw account. So if I wanted to have a meeting, say for Thursday, actually I've got to do one for Thursday the 11th at 3:15. I double click to create a new calendar invite, and we'll say PL session 2. Now I want to make sure that that is at 3:15, and we're not going till we're definitely not going until 5:15. We'll change that to 4 p.m. So you can see here that you can change the dates really, really easily. Now, because we're Department of Education, there are a couple of options. We can either choose to use a Google Meet, or you can make it a Zoom meeting as well. So there are lots of different options. You can set your notification items down here, the calendar colors, all of these different bits and pieces. You can attach documents. So if you're meeting with people across schools or within your school, you can attach an agenda item in here. If you're meeting with students from another classroom, you can attach different documents in here. You can attach links to videos, links to an online book, anything in there. You can add a link. You can even add in some instructions for your lessons on there. But for now, we're going to come up and we're going to make this a Google Meet. There we are. And then this will provide the option for people to click on a link. So what I do is I come up and I click save, and you can see that I've got my calendar event saved here. If I click on that, I can either click join with Google Meet, or over here, the international symbol for copy across all devices. If I click on that, that's now copied to that link is now copied to my board, and I can paste that wherever it is that I need to go. So I could paste that into an email, I could post that into Currents. So for example, if I wanted to post it into Currents, I come back, I jump into Currents, and then I can post an update from here. We'll call this Thursday PL link. And then I can paste that into here. There's my meeting code there. and post, and now anyone in our currents will be able to access that link on Thursday. It's really, really simple being able to use that. The last tool, don't close the wrong tab. I did that in a meeting the other day, and I apologize to those people that I was in a meeting with where I accidentally closed that. I'm going to close all of these tabs, and then I'm going to show you the last tool. Now, some schools have used a chat feature on external applications on things like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Instagram. Some people might use text messaging. This is a supported chat that the Department of Education has access to through the G Suite for Education program. And the reason that this is good is that you can adjust your notification settings so that on a Friday afternoon you can close this and go and you won't get them, but it's also Department of Education supported. Whereas requesting data from Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp or things like that, they're not Department of Education supported. They're not as secure as these platforms here. So we really do recommend that if you are making this move to go online, that you say no more Facebook Messenger chats, keep that for your personal life, and please use a supported system here. So what you can do here is you can create a room. Now you could create a whole school room. You could create this for your team. So let's say, for example, that we're on a stage 3 team and I want to add on to here. Now, of course, I always use my good colleague, Nolene Callahan. So you just type names in here, add the people on, and when you're done, you can create the team. You can have as many or as little teams as you like. So you might choose to have a whole school team, a learning and wellbeing team, and a stage 3 team, a release teachers team, a PBL team, a sports carnival team, chat team, anything like that. You can create chats for those teams. And the best thing is you can start a chat and then finish it whenever it is required. So that's a really, really simple tool that you can use, and you can also download that application on your mobile device, and you can log in using your Department of Education credentials, and that should get you set up and make sure that you're using those supported tools. We have a look at Drive. We have a look at Classroom. There are professional learning opportunities, and I'll show you where you can access those at the end of this video. Google Currents. If you haven't already and you want to get started on Google Currents, please check out the video on getting started on Currents, and I will cover everything there. HangoutsMeet, we will run through a special bite-sized PL on that a little bit later. And Chat is the secure messaging tool, one of the secure messaging tools that you can use with the Department of Education. And that one I will let you explore, and we may have a look at that in a bite-sized PL as well. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you is this is Microsoft Teams. Now, if you're not familiar with that, that's okay. Just have a look and a little bit of a listen. But if you are familiar and your school is not using Teams at the moment, chances are you're probably part of a team working with some colleagues, maybe working across schools, something working with a corporate Department of Education. For whatever reason, you may be familiar with Teams. And this is a screenshot here of my Teams taken the other day. And just in the top left-hand corner, I've actually taken a snapshot of that. And on this next slide here, I've just zoomed in a little, and I wanted to match up the tools that you can use from the G Suite that marry up with this idea here in Microsoft Teams. So up the top, you've got your activity. Now, Currents gives you your stream from all of the different communities that you're a part of. And in Classroom, you, of course, have the Classroom stream where all of your posts from your teachers and, if you've allowed it, posts from your students get saved. So in Activity in Teams, you can use Currents or you can use Classroom. The chat feature, I mean, no prizes awarded here. It is Google Chat. Nice and easy. They're direct comparisons with each other. Imagine it's like Facebook Messenger or text messaging. You can add in little different bits and pieces as well. So those ones are there. Now your teams, you can have professional teams, in which case that would be a comparison to Currents, or you can have classroom teams, and that would be a direct comparison to Google Classroom. For calls, you would use HangoutsMeet. Now, HangoutsMeet has a video option, which is what we're using here, or you can, of course, just use the same traditional telephone call, and you can use that as well. And then your files, the direct comparison is Google Drive. So what I want to highlight to you here is that Microsoft Teams, the philosophy behind that is that you open just one application and it's got all of the different options. So activity, chat, Teams, calls, files, everything is accessed through one application. That's the philosophy behind Teams. Jumping onto the other side, we've got Google. And Google's philosophy is less about having one application that does everything and more about having multiple applications that do one specific thing. Now, this can be good because you can pick and choose the different items that you want. So you might say, well, we're going to use HangoutsMeet, Classroom, and Drive, but we're using a third-party platform for Currents. And that also has our chat feature on there as well, because I can direct message people in there. So we're not going to use the chat feature and we're not going to use Current. If that's your school, fantastic. Whereas when you're working in Microsoft Teams, you don't have the option to disable those. So that's a benefit of using the G Suite over Microsoft Teams. The downside is that you have to log into this screen every single time and open up multiple tabs in your browser. So there's one for Classroom, there's one for Drive. I've already got HangoutsMeet there. I would need another one for Currents. But all of these tools, so you can see that they're opening in my web browser there. All of these tools are designed to be used in a web browser. And no, you cannot use Internet Explorer. You need to use Mozilla Firefox, Google Chrome, or Microsoft Edge. If you're using Internet Explorer, you will find that they don't work. These tools don't work. They're not designed for Internet Explorer. If you need that explained to you, I highly suggest that you Google, why can't I use Internet Explorer? But please, it is not a modern web browser. You need to be using Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. Rant over, I promise, and I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. So you can see here that all of these tools were designed to be used with the tabs open. Keeping good digital hygiene, I will close these tabs because I am not using them. Coming down here now, one of the things that I wanted to show you, I'm going to open up my Microsoft Teams. So here's my Teams. It's here ready to go. And I'm going to come into Unicorn Public School, the example that I am using here. So I'll open this up and this may look a little bit similar to how your team looks here. So we've got our general channel, a couple of stage teams, a learning and wellbeing team. A lot of schools like to have a social channel. So if you're getting started on Currents, you may like to have a social community. And the reason for that is you might have a few Grinches like myself who would probably go through and mute that channel. The other thing you can do in Teams is have a locked channel. So you might have an executive only channel that's only available to people on the executive, and you can tell that because it's locked. Whereas when you're using Currents, you can set up a community, and rather than having it locked, each community only has its own members. So you don't get channels in Currents, you get communities, and then there's no subgroup underneath that. Whereas in Teams, in your team, you have subgroups called channels. What I wanted to show you in here was the way that you can add in your Google tools into here. So I've just, in the early stage 1 channel, I've come along and I have added in here Google Classroom. Now you can see that I'm operating out of Microsoft Teams, but I've managed to add in Google Classroom. So how do you do that? Wayne, you beautiful wizard, show me, please. And oh, my goodness, settle down. I will show you right now. Let's come up the top to our general channel. So I've just selected this across the top here. And in the center at the top, you should be able to see, just next to grades, you should be able to see a plus button. And this adds a tab. So all of these across the top here are called tabs. Now, if you want to do this, what you can do is you can click on Add Tab, and it will bring up a list of options in here. Now, if you've got, for example, an onboarding document that you like to use, you could add in a PDF and link it from there. You could add in a PowerPoint. If you had a PowerPoint that you had to run through, you could add in a form. I know that some schools add in their forms for sick leave for teachers to help document and track some of that. I'm a huge fan of Trello, an amazing organizational tool. But what I want to do now is we're just going to add in a website. So you could add in your third-party system like Momentum if you were using something like that. Now, if I click on Add Website here, I'm going to call this one Google Classroom. And then all I've got to do is find my URL. So I'm going to tab back to my Chrome browser. And for those of you watching at home, I'm going to press and hold the Alt key. Now I tap the tab button and you can see where my square goes around, or my rectangle. If I want Teams, I can do that. So I'm holding Alt and then I press tab, press tab, press tab, press tab. If I press and hold tab, it does this. It gets a little bit crazy. But I want to go back to G Suite because I want to open up Classroom. I'll come up on here. And it is taking a little while. I do apologize for that. Now, once I'm in Classroom, I simply open up my Classroom. Let's say I wanted my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I copy this link up here. I go back to my Microsoft Teams and I paste that link in there. Then I click Save. It's that simple. Now, some schools in their different channels down here, if you've got 5 stage 1 classrooms, you might have 5 Google Classrooms linked across there, and you can name them whatever you like, but it just helps teachers be able to see what's going on. So you can see here that I have added in this classroom in here. Now, when I first do this, it will come up asking me to select my account, and then it brings us to our famous blue and white single sign-on page. You will be familiar with it by now, but you can add in lots and lots of different things in here. If you wanted, for example, to add in currents, that's okay. I just come up here, I click on website, I come back here, I would open up my currents, I would get my link to join from my community, and then I can copy and paste that in as well. Now, you don't have to, here we are, you don't have to use these. You can also add external sites as well, but there we are, let's add that one in, and then we'll click Save. There you go. So now you can start to see how, even though we're operating out of Microsoft Teams, and your school might be there at the moment, you might be one of the schools where you're using Microsoft for your teachers and your administrative work, but you're using Google Classroom for your students. It's a very common situation to be in primary schools. This is not a zero-sum game. You don't have to give up your Google tools because you're using Teams, and you certainly don't have to give up your Microsoft tools because you're using the G Suite. These two systems talk to each other. Now, if you wanted to do the reverse, if you wanted to add in, say, for example, Sway. Sway is a fantastic tool that we can use. So I'll come back here. I'm already in this classroom here. What I might want to do is add some classwork or perhaps I want to add a Sway tool in. So let's come back into here. I come into my Microsoft Office 365. I don't support you using the different applications down here on your device. Operating out of your web browser is the best way to go. It saves your work automatically, and yes, it's a change, but it's a change that's well worth the while. So if I log into here, and I can bring up a document that I've been working on, and I can paste that directly into my Google Classroom. Now, you can do this in the stream, but you can also do this in classwork. So you can set an assignment, for an example, or you can set some coursework for your students, for example. But if I wanted to do this, I can grab the link from here. Let's open it up in my browser. So you can see here, I'm just going to grab the link and, oh, actually this might bring me on. I'll grab the link in a moment once we're loaded. Be patient, Wayne, be patient. And if you're watching this, take a moment to have a think about what you're thankful for today. I haven't done my gratitude today. Do you know what? I'm thankful that I've got access to clean drinking water because I got some water out of a tap here at ATP today, and the filter was disgusting and it tasted horrible. But I was lucky enough that I could pour the water out and move to another tap and still get some fresh water. So that's what I'm grateful for today. What are you grateful for? Okay, our document has loaded. So if I come up here and I click on the share button, I can copy that link. Remember I said that's the international symbol for copy? Well, here it is here. Google has it and Microsoft has it as well. And if you look on your iPhone, you will see it on there. So I'm going to copy that link. I'm going to come back into my classroom. I'm going to paste that into here and I'm going to post it. There you go. And then your students will still be able to access that link, that Microsoft document straight through their Google Classroom. Now, if you wanted to set your classwork in here, you can, of course, do that as well. So just by creating an assignment, for an example, you give it your title, add in your instructions, and then I can click on Add. I'm going to add a link. Add link, and this is attached onto that post for my students coming through as well. I'm not going to walk you through how to set an assignment in Classroom because we have got all of that information available for you on the T4L website. You can see here that has loaded. You can do the same for PowerPoints. You can do it for Excel spreadsheets, for Microsoft Word documents. If you're using Classroom as your learning management system, you don't have to give up your Microsoft tools. Just as if you're using Microsoft Teams for your administration or with your colleagues across different sites, you don't have to give up your Google tools. You can embed these and there is crossover. So I hope that you have learned something with that today. Let's go back here and have a look at where else we are going. Looks like we've already done that. So linking into G Suite and Teams, they talk to each other. It's why we have both. There's not one answer to moving online. And one of the key elements of doing this, I guess, is that it's really, really important to expose your students to a wide range of ecosystems. And I'll give you an example of why that's important. A few years ago, I had an intern come to work with me, and this intern, they had absolutely no idea how to log on to a Windows 10 device like this. They couldn't use Windows, they couldn't use Word, they couldn't use PowerPoint, they couldn't access a web browser in Windows. And this intern said to me, well, I'm a Mac girl, and that's just how I roll. And it was really, really difficult because the first few weeks where she should have spent her time getting to know the class and getting into teaching, she had to spend learning this whole new system here. Now, it could be the same in reverse for you. Perhaps your school's purchasing iPads and you only know how to use Windows 10. And you've got no idea how to use an Apple ecosystem. And now it's a professional requirement that you know how to use that. We want to make sure that our students are exposed to the three main operating systems. That's Windows, Chrome, which is Google's operating system, and Apple's operating systems. And if we can do that, we're going to set our students up for success. Now, let's have a look at a timeline for your school. And this is an example, and I'll make sure that these slides are posted into the Currents community with this video as well so that you're able to access these. Down on the left-hand column, we've got our different tools. Here on this slide, we've got the professional learning links for your teachers to access these tools as well. So you're not on your own. And if you're a unicorn at school, you don't have to go around and help each individual teacher learn to use this. We've got professional learning there. Teachers need to be self-driven and you need to go on and you need to click on these videos. Teachers, no one is going to come to hold your hand and show you how to do this. You will have to click on some links and you will have to do some learning yourself if your school is choosing to use these tools. Now, I was working with a school recently who decided that they're not going to use chat and they're not going to use Currents. So they simply deleted these out of their timeline, and that's perfectly fine. You might choose that your school might choose to use other tools. That's perfectly fine. You do you. No one knows your context better than your teachers. have a professional discussion with each other and figure out where you want to go. You'll have some early adopters, people who might already be using these tools, or people who are very keen to come in and use them. And here in the early adopters column, this is just an example. Again, you'll have to adjust it for your school. It tells you when these people are using these tools. Full use is when we expect everyone in the school to have completed the professional learning in the second column and to be able to use those tools in there. Now, if people complete the professional learning and still require help, that's okay. That's where the unicorns and myself, we're here to help you after you've completed the professional learning. We might be able to show you how to use certain tools, link you to some videos, model some of those skills as well. So please, if you're not sure and you have already completed the online professional learning, please ask your unicorn, and unicorns, if you need help, feel free to get in contact with me. It's really nice to have a timeline like this for your school because it removes anxiety about knowing when things are going to come through. And it also provides a nice ticker chart for things like validation or your school improvement plans as well. This would be the session where we have questions and comments, but I'm getting the feeling that these live sessions may not be live for too much longer, and that they will just be recorded and posted available for use once they become available, because we've got a lot of scheduling conflicts with schools. And trust me, schools, I know schools are busy places, and we go to all of this effort to make beautiful timetables that we say, yes, we're doing here, 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 here. And then every single week without fail, there is an interruption to our timetable. And that's the whole point of these sessions, is that they are designed to be asynchronous. You don't have to be learning at the same time that I am presenting. But if you do have any questions or you do have any comments, jump onto Currents and please let me know what would you like to see. I certainly hope that this session was helpful to you. If you wouldn't mind, could you please scan using your mobile phone and complete the feedback form for this professional learning session? I'm sure that we're all used to using QR codes by now. If you're not, that's okay. Someone else on your team can do it for you. But I would love to get some feedback around if you found this session useful or helpful. That would be amazing to me. My name's Wayne Forbes. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please go to your unicorns in your school. And unicorns, if you've got any questions, please jump straight online and get in contact with me. Have a fabulous day ahead of you if you've done this in the morning, or have a fabulous afternoon if you've done it. You can tick this off and say, done, yes. Go and explore some of those tools. It's been great having you here. Thank you so much.